Hi, I'm Kirk Davies, Rangeland scientist, here to present Eggman. I'm going to discuss why weed prevention is important and how to accomplish it. Preventing weeds from infesting your lands is much more cost-effective than trying to control already established weed problems. For every dollar spent on prevention, it saves about $17 in later expenses. Currently, most efforts focus on controlling already established monocultures of weeds. This has proven to be very costly and is rarely successful. The negative impact weeds have on the productivity and function of our lands is huge, and thus economically, we need to prevent their establishment in uninfested areas. Currently, about 95% of our rangelands are not weed infested, but weeds are rapidly expanding to these uninfested areas. To successfully prevent weed invasions, we need to limit the spread of weeds, create weed-resistant plant communities, and systematically search for and eradicate new infestations. In the next few days, I will discuss how weed spread, what a weed-resistant plant community is, how to systematically search for and eradicate new infestations, and how to develop a weed prevention plan. Today I'm going to discuss how weeds spread and some methods to prevent their spread. The movement of seeds away from their parent plants is called dispersal. Many weed seeds have adaptations to enhance their dispersal. For example, hooked on or barbed growths on seeds increase their ability to attach to animals. Some seeds have wings or plumes that allow them to be dispersed by wind. Weed seeds can be dispersed by animals, humans, vehicles, water, wind, and contaminated hay or seeds. Some of the simplest methods to reduce dispersal of weed seeds are to limit traffic, whether it's humans, animals, or vehicles, through weed infestations when weed seeds are mature and ready to be dispersed. Another important tool is to not feed infested hay on an uninfested location. For example, don't feed Russian knapweed or perennial pepperweed infested hay at an uninfested location. Today I'm going to discuss containment barriers and early detection and eradication of new weed infestations. Many weed infestations are too large and costly to control or revegetate with desirable species. However, containment barriers can be an effective way to limit their continued expansion into new areas. If the majority of weed seeds are dispersed relatively short distances, spraying an effective herbicide around the outside of the infestation will limit its invasion of new areas. Early detection and eradication of new weed infestations is also an important prevention tool. To detect new infestations, systematically searching is required. All small infestations are treated for eradication, but are mapped so they can be monitored and treated as necessary. Early detection and eradication of new weed infestation is more effective than trying to control large areas dominated by weeds. Prevention barriers around large infestations with an early detection and eradication of new infestations program can be an effective combination. Today I'm going to continue our discussion of weed prevention. The topic today is weed-resistant plant communities and disturbances. Plant communities that are resistant to weed invasions are those communities that use resources when they're available. Weed-resistant plant communities should have a diversity of functionally different plants to use resources from different locations and at different time periods. For example, a community that has deep-rooted and shallow-rooted plants uses nutrients and water from deep and shallow parts of the soil. However, severe disturbances can reduce diversity of plants and also increase the available resources. Disturbances can increase resources by reducing the plants using them and by returning nutrients tied up in plant parts. Therefore, a weed-resistant plant community also needs to be tolerant of the disturbances it will experience, or the disturbances need to be prevented. Plant communities that have evolved with certain disturbances may need those disturbances, at least infrequently, to maintain plant functional diversity. An example of this is the encroachment of western juniper into mountain big sagebrush communities. Without an infrequent fire, western juniper decreases the functional diversity of the mountain big sagebrush community. Today I'm going to discuss developing a weed prevention program. First, you need to get your neighbors on board with your weed prevention program. The weeds don't respect property boundaries, and your neighbor's weeds may soon become your weeds. Second, mapping weeds is critical to prevention success. Maps are useful for determining where projects should occur and monitoring. Next, determine where the line is to prevent weeds versus containing existing infestations. Lastly, implement prevention actions and monitor their success. It is important to be adaptive. If a prevention tool is not effective, use a different one or a different combination. A successful prevention program requires long-term dedication. Prevention is kind of like feeding hay to cattle. It is something that needs to be done every